It's funny. If you open up Google Maps and look at a country like the Netherlands or parts of Germany, you see this perfect, beautiful grid, straight lines, right angles. It's all so logical. But then you drag the map over to Switzerland, and bam, it's like a bowl of spaghetti just got dumped on the Alps. It looks like absolute chaos. And you can't help but wonder why. Why not just build a straight road from point A to point B? Well, there is a reason. A really powerful one, in fact.
Yeah, let's just get right to it. I mean, we live in an age where we can build skyscrapers that touch the clouds, right? So why can't we just bulldoze a straight line through a mountain? It's the shortest distance, the most efficient path. What's stopping us?
Well, the answer is pretty simple and also kind of humbling. It's because the mountain has rules and you don't break them. For centuries, engineers have been in this constant fight, this war against pure geology. And every time they've tried to cheat, to ignore those rules, they've learned that the mountain always collects its price.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. The first rule, the biggest one, isn't about technology or money. It's about basic physics. It's a force that every single car, every truck, every cyclist has to obey, and it's what engineers call the tyranny of the incline.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks like some boring government manual. But trust me, this document right here, this is the rulebook for the entire war. It happens to be from the Montana Department of Transportation, but the physics it's based on are universal. These rules apply everywhere, from the Rockies to the Andes to, yes, the Swiss Alps. And I want you to look closely at that highlighted row, the one for mountainous terrain. And there it is, 10%. That's not a suggestion, it's not a guideline. That number is the law, the absolute, non-negotiable steepest a road can possibly be in the mountains. Why? Because your car's engine, and especially the brakes on a massive heavy truck, simply can't handle anything steeper. It's just physics.
So what on earth does a 10% grade even mean? Okay, think of it like this. For every 10 feet you drive forward, you're only allowed to climb 1 foot up. That's it. So let's scale that up. If you need to get your car up a mountain that's a kilometer high, you have to build at least 10 kilometers of road to do it. You literally can't just go straight up. It's not an option. The laws of physics say no.
And that is why Swiss roads look like spaghetti. All those hairpin turns, those switchbacks, that's just engineers being clever. They are forced to buy height with distance. They have to stretch the road out like a long, winding ribbon just to stay under that 10% limit. But what do you do when the mountain is so massive, so sheer, that even that's not enough? What happens when going around just isn't an option anymore? That's the moment engineers had to make an absolutely monumental choice. If you can't go over it, and you can't go around it, well, there's only one direction left. You have to go through it. And this decision, right here, kicked off one of the most ambitious, dangerous, and frankly insane chapters in the history of engineering. Suddenly, starting around the 1850s, it's like a tunnel-building fever swept across the Alps. I mean, look at this timeline. First the Mont Cenis, then the Gotthard, then the Simplon, each one longer, deeper, and more audacious than the last. They weren't just digging tunnels, they were punching holes through the very heart of Europe, pushing the absolute limits of what anyone thought was humanly possible. But here's the thing. Creating a straight line under the mountain isn't the easy way out. Because when you're that deep, under millions and millions of tons of rock, the mountain doesn't just lie there passively. Oh no, it fights back, and it has a whole arsenal of terrifying ways to do it. This wasn't construction anymore. This was war. A war waged on solid rock. A battle against forces so immense, engineers were just starting to wrap their heads around them. And the deeper they dug, the more violent and unpredictable the mountain became. By the way, if you're finding it fascinating how this insane geography forced Switzerland to invent some of the most mind-blowing engineering on Earth, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into how the map really explains our history. Go on, subscribe now.
So what were they up against? Well, the mountain's arsenal basically had 4 main weapons, and honestly, each one is a different kind of nightmare. You had sudden catastrophic floods of water and mud. You had this bizarre thing called squeezing ground. And then you had the most terrifying of them all, rock bursts.
Okay, let's start with water. And I'm not talking about a little leak, a drip, drip, drip from the ceiling. Imagine you're working in the dark, and suddenly the rock face in front of you just explodes inward with a high-pressure geyser freezing water. We're talking enough force to throw grown men and heavy equipment around like toys. And if that's not bad enough, sometimes it wasn't just water.
They'd hit a patch of unstable ground, and the mountain itself would literally turn to liquid. A river of mud, gravel, and rock would just pour into the tunnel, burying everything and everyone in its path in seconds. Then you've got the sheer, unimaginable pressure. I mean, think about it. Miles of mountain sitting on top of you. The pressure is so immense that solid rock, starts to behave like a thick, viscous paste. It would just slowly, unstoppably squeeze inwards, crushing the strongest steel beams and massive timber supports like they were toothpicks. But the one that truly terrified the miners was the rock burst. This is where rock that's been under incredible stress for millions of years doesn't just crack or crumble, it explodes. Without any warning, it's a violent, spontaneous release of energy, like a bomb going off, blasting huge shards of rock from the walls faster than a bullet. So you have to ask, what was the real price for that straight line? For defying the mountain's rules? It wasn't just measured in francs or years of construction. The real price was paid in human lives. Just listen to this account from the Lulchberg Tunnel disaster in 1908. A flow of mud and gravels filled in the tunnel on a length of 1,800 meters. 24 miners could not escape and died. Just like that. A sudden, massive inflow. It filled almost 2 kilometers of tunnel. And 24 men were just gone. Buried alive, never to be seen again. And this diagram here? This shows why it happened. It was a fatal mistake. The geologists at the time were confident there was a thick layer of solid rock, over 100 meters of it, between them and the valley floor way up above. But they were wrong. What was actually up there was a hidden channel, a deep scar left by an ancient glacier filled with loose, waterlogged sand and gravel. And they tunneled right into it. But here's the incredible part. Even after horrific disasters like this, they didn't stop. They kept going. Each accident was a brutal, terrible lesson in geology, a lesson written in blood. In fact, the Lulchberg disaster basically invented the modern science of geotechnical engineering. It was the moment they realized you can't just brute force your way through a mountain. You have to understand it. You have to predict its behavior. You have to respect it. And all of that hard-won, paid-for knowledge, it all led to this. 57 kilometers. That's how long the Gotthard Base Tunnel is, which opened back in 2016. It is the longest and deepest railway tunnel on the entire planet. A perfect, dead straight line finally achieved, but only because of the terrible sacrifices made by those early pioneers. So the next time you see one of those winding mountain roads, don't think of it as inefficient. It's not a flaw. It's a sign of respect for the power of the mountain. And when you fly over the Alps and see a perfectly straight railway line disappear into a tunnel, remember the incredible century-long war that was fought just to make that straight line possible. We've reached the end of our journey through some of the windiest roads on the planet. If you love digging into how humanity has taken on impossible geography and won, and you want to be part of a community that gets excited about this stuff, then what are you waiting for? Smash that like button and subscribe. It truly helps us keep making visual documentaries just like this one. So subscribe, and then tell us in the comments, what other impossible countries should we tackle next?